Hi, I'm John Brender, Director of the Confucius Institute at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. Since more and more Americans are considering work or study in China, the Confucius Institute at Wayne State University has produced the following video about young Americans who have lived in places like Beijing, Wuhan, and Nanjing. In addition to asking about what sparked their interests and what they initially expected to find, we asked about their perceptions of Chinese education, work environments, families, and personal relationships. We hope this film will provide you with some open, honest, and objective insights about China, and that the participants' observations and commentary will help you make a more informed decision about working, studying, or doing business in China.
Thousand words left unsaid, held back by fear. Why am I trying to figure out how you felt after all this time? If I didn't care. Thousand words left unsaid, held back.
I was introduced to the Chinese culture through movies and music.
I think I became interested in China through my mother, actually, because all of her books were all about Chinese history, Chinese culture.
I originally came to China to teach English, and through that experience of teaching, I decided I wanted to study in China as well.
My grandfather's Chinese, so I've always kind of been interested.
I wanted to go as far away as possible for a little bit.
Since my parents are Chinese, I've always been raised surrounded by Chinese culture.
I knew when I was just graduating from high school that I was interested in taking on a new language and cultural challenge.
If you're familiar with the movie The Graduate, it was a lot like that. Someone came up to me and they said, John, rather than be plastics, it's China, China, China.
My main expectation was that it would be exciting and that I wouldn't know exactly what to expect.
I kind of wanted to be shocked, actually.
I was just expecting a bunch of Bruce Lees.
I knew it was going to be a lot of hard work and probably some challenging new exposures to the culture.
Everyone explained to me that it was a very homogeneous society. I found that that wasn't the case at all, that there was many diverse different cultures.
I had absolutely no expectations at all. I had no idea what to expect. I had no Chinese language background when I went.
The biggest initial shock to me was the amount of people.
Everywhere, people, tons of people.
People everywhere.
Just driving from the airport was shocking to me because I remember looking around and just seeing things that I could not read or understand. I don't know what was going on.
The biggest initial shock was when we rolled into the university. I thought we had arrived at a high school because the students just looked so different.
There's just so many different types of cultures that have developed over thousands of years, converging on one city at one time, that it was almost overwhelming.
By fear, why am I trying to figure
Chinese families are close and together. Households will have maybe 3-4 generations in one home.
The grandparents usually take care of the child. Usually they're retired, so they'll take care of them when they're a baby. The really great emphasis on taking care of one another and the parents' role of taking care of the child and the child's role of taking care of the parents as they get older.
They have a deep sense of responsibility towards their parents. They often feel like they need to do what their parents tell them.
They have this saying in China called the little emperor. And basically the kids in the family become little emperors because they're single child families and they have huge expectations put on them, but at the same time they're given the world.
I noticed that one of my friends would never sort of thank his parents for anything. And he told me, he said, we don't say thank you to our parents.
I sometimes would ask Chinese friends, what kind of a relationship do you have with your parents? Do you get along? And they would just kind of shrug and say, it's my parents. What do you mean?
Don't you never care enough to tell a lie? Can't believe
Chinese students generally have fewer friendships, but they're deeper and longer lasting.
Maybe they'll start by giving you a gift. And then if you want to show them that you also want to build friendship, then you need to give them a gift.
You'll go to lunch and it is expected that one of your friends will pay for you. You don't say thank you, and then next time you take them out for lunch.
So-and-so is a good friend to me because they are very good to me. It seemed to be much more in their sphere about reciprocal treatment.
Chinese friends will hold hands with each other, guys and girls. I always thought that was kind of fun.
One of the very early surprises I had was how readily my Chinese friends would borrow my things.
Friendships are very important because if you need something done in China, it's very useful to have people in higher positions. And if you're really close friends with somebody, they will just like burn every bridge or do whatever they can.
The students are together with a class of students, and that class of students is together for 4 years, and they take at least their core classes together, and they live together, and they play together.
The approach has largely been on rote memorization in the past. There's a lot less effort, I think, made in Chinese schools to explore children's inner creativity.
When you graduate high school, you have to take a comprehensive exam over the last 12 years of study in order to get into a college or a university, and your score on that exam will determine the kind of school you get into.
If you don't get into a good college, you won't get a good education, and then you won't be able to find a good job.
If you look at metrics in terms of the US workplace and Chinese workplace and who has more hours spent, Chinese is, are in the workplace far more than us.
I think Chinese people generally work longer hours. In their heart, they might not always like it, but they know it's expected and they will do what's expected of them.
Everyone had this strange reverence for the boss.
There was not very much separation between where you lived and where you worked, and the people you lived with were the people that you spent time with and you interacted with on a daily basis. Even if there's a conflict, they'll try to still smile and preserve the feeling of a good relationship. I arrived at my Chinese university where I was teaching at, and we had no idea what we were teaching and we had no idea what we were doing, and that was okay. That was totally normal. Before the start of the semester, you don't even necessarily know when the first day of classes is going to be until the weekend before.
That's just a different cultural feature of China. They make decisions on a different timetable than we do.
In China, if you date in high school, oh boy, you could get suspended, you could get in big trouble.
Chinese students were expected not to date until they were 18 years old because they had the pressure of the college examinations.
You date in China, marriage is on the table. You're dating to get married.
It was very little casual dating. It was all very outcome oriented.
If they're around 26, their parents, and not only their parents, but their parents' friends, their neighbors will be like, hey, what are you doing about the next step in your life?
I really got used to just facing a problem and dealing with it myself, and became more independent.
I really want to pay attention to foreign visitors and also try to show them that same kind of generosity and hospitality that I've been shown here.
I tend to say, yeah, maybe a lot more, because in Chinese culture it's very polite and it helps both of you not lose face if you can say, yeah, maybe that's possible.
I think China made me a bit of an entrepreneur, to be honest. It also made me more confident. Before I went there, I questioned what I could do.
I could see myself living in China, whereas before I went there, I would never see that in my future.
I ended up staying in China for 8 years, so my experience of studying in China completely changed the trajectory of my life.
Practice your Chinese.
Try not to speak English so much. If you try to speak Chinese and go out of your way, it goes a long way.
The best advice I can give is to read some sort of history about China before you go.
Try to figure out what it is that you like, whatever it is. Think about that plus China. Don't just think about the language and the culture in itself.
You just gotta have fun and get over any insecurities as fast as you can.
I found the people who enjoyed it the most were the people who were taking the most risk. If you're young, you're going over there, might as well just try to really reach out and do some crazy things.
By all means, come. It's an awesome experience. It really opens your eyes.
And I encourage anyone else interested that they should just go for it.